Are you ready for the unexpected? Here we go. Number 1. Hikers who took beer instead of water. Let's start with a classic tale of poor planning. The year is 2005, the location the unforgiving heat of the Grand Canyon. A group of young men feeling adventurous decided to tackle a hike. They packed their supplies. But there was one glaring omission. They completely forgot to bring any water. Instead, they brought several cases of beer. You heard that right. Beer. In the desert? Now, anyone who knows anything about survival knows that alcohol is a diuretic. It makes you lose fluids. So, not only were they not hydrating, they were actively dehydrating themselves. It was a recipe for disaster. Before long, heat stroke and dehydration set in. They were found by park rangers, barely conscious and in serious trouble. Luckily, they were rescued, but not before learning a very painful lesson about priorities. The lesson here is simple: when in the desert, pack water, a lot of it, and leave the beer for after the hike. Number 2. The Titanic's missing binoculars. Next up is a story of a tiny mistake with a monumental consequence. We all know the story of the Titanic, the unsinkable ship that met its end with an iceberg. But did you know a simple oversight might have changed everything? The ship's crew had binoculars that could have spotted the iceberg much earlier. The problem: the second officer, who had the key to the locker where the binoculars were stored, was reassigned just before the maiden voyage. In his haste, he forgot to hand over the key. So, the lookouts were left with nothing but their bare eyes. It was a clear night, but without binoculars, they simply couldn't see the iceberg in time to avoid it. They only had about 37 seconds to react. That small piece of metal, that tiny key, contributed to one of the most famous maritime disasters in history. The lesson: attention to detail matters. Even the smallest ones can have the biggest impact, and maybe, just maybe, have a spare key. Number 3. The explorer who wore a wet fur coat. Our next blunder takes us to the frozen north, where a polar explorer made a rookie mistake that seems almost unbelievable. We're talking about a guy who was literally an expert in cold weather, but he made a choice that defies logic. Instead of wearing a waterproof, insulated parka, he wore a large fur coat that was soaked through. He thought the fur would keep him warm, but instead, the water froze solid, encasing him in a block of ice. The freezing temperatures and the heavy frozen coat led to severe hypothermia. This is the kind of mistake you'd expect from a cartoon character, not a seasoned explorer. The lesson: water and freezing temperatures do not mix. Ever. Invest in proper gear and make smart choices, even when you think you know it all. Number 4. The campers who slept in a dry riverbed. Now, for a story that proves nature is always one step ahead. In Australia, a group of campers set up their tents for the night in what they thought was the perfect spot: a dry riverbed. It seemed like a great idea. It was flat, sandy, and shielded from the wind. It was completely dry. So what could go wrong? A lot, as it turns out. Unbeknownst to them, a massive storm had hit the mountains upstream. The riverbed, which had been dry for months, became a raging torrent of floodwater in the middle of the night. The campers woke up to a catastrophic flash flood that swept away their campsite and nearly cost them their lives. They were lucky to escape with their lives, but their gear and vehicles were a total loss. The lesson: never, ever underestimate the power of nature. A dry riverbed is still a riverbed. Always check the weather forecast for the whole region, not just your immediate location. Number 5. The soldiers who jumped into a river after a long march. This next story is tragic and highlights how even a simple act of relief can turn deadly. During World War I, soldiers on a long, grueling march in the heat of battle were desperate for a break. Exhausted and sweating, they came across a cool, inviting river. In a moment of pure impulse, a group of them jumped in to cool off. What they didn't realize was the sudden change in temperature was a shock to their systems. The cold water caused their muscles to seize up almost instantly, a phenomenon known as cold water shock. It led to severe cramps, making it impossible for them to swim or stay afloat. Several soldiers drowned. It was a heartbreaking and preventable tragedy. The lesson: be mindful of your body's limits. Don't go from one extreme temperature to another without a gradual transition. And never underestimate the dangers of cold water. Number 6. The hunter who started America's deadliest fire. We've all had a bad day, but this guy's day was a special kind of terrible. We're talking about a hunter in Wisconsin in 1871. He's out in the woods, minding his own business, when he comes across a bear. Instead of backing away slowly or, just making a loud noise, he decides to get creative. He lights a small fire. His plan: to scare the bear off with a little bit of smoke. Genius. Right, wrong. This was an incredibly dry year. That little fire, meant to be a simple scare tactic, quickly got out of control. It spiraled into an inferno that would become known as the Great Peshtigo Fire, the deadliest wildfire in U.S. history. This single act of poor judgment led to the destruction of over 1.2 million acres and, tragically, the deaths of somewhere between 1,500 and 2,500 people. Number 7, the patrolman who thought he knew the way. Ever been so confident about something you thought you could do it with your eyes closed? For one patrolman in the Alaskan wilderness, that overconfidence nearly cost him everything. This is a classic cautionary tale from the rugged landscape of Alaska, about a patrolman named Sergeant Miller. He was a veteran of many patrols and knew the local trails like the back of his hand. So when he headed out on a bright, sunny day, he made a decision that would become a legendary blunder. He left his compass behind. His reasoning was simple. The sky was clear. The landmarks were visible. And a compass was just extra weight he didn't need. He was a man from the lower 48, a city guy who had come to respect the wilderness, but on this day, his confidence was through the roof. But in Alaska, the weather doesn't care how well you think you know the trail. A sudden, blinding whiteout blizzard rolled in, erasing the sun, the landmarks, and every bit of his familiar path. Sergeant Miller was hopelessly lost. He wandered for 3 days in a swirling world of white, humbled by his arrogance. His simple patrol had become a brutal struggle for survival. He was eventually found, freezing and exhausted, having walked in circles the entire time. The lesson is simple and vital. A survival tool is not for when things are easy. It's for when things go wrong. Never trust your memory over a piece of gear that can save your life. Number 8. The tourist who picked up a golden poison frog. Our final blunder is a classic tale of look but don't touch. A tourist visiting a rainforest decided to get a little too close and personal with nature. He spotted a tiny, brightly colored frog and, thinking it was harmless, decided to pick it up for a photo. Big mistake. The frog was a golden poison frog, one of the most toxic animals on the planet. Within 5 minutes, the tourist was experiencing excruciating pain and was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The toxins from the frog's skin are powerful enough to kill an adult human. He barely survived. It's a stark reminder that in the wild, the most beautiful creatures can be the most dangerous. The lesson: if you don't know what it is, don't touch it. Simple as that. A photo isn't worth your life. So there you have it. 6 unbelievable tales of survival mistakes that prove that sometimes the biggest threat isn't the bear or the blizzard. It's your own poor judgment. The one thing all these stories have in common is a lack of foresight. Whether it's packing the right supplies, paying attention to your surroundings, or simply using common sense, these blunders are a masterclass in what not to do. So the next time you're heading out into the great outdoors, remember these stories. Think ahead. Be prepared. And use your brain. Because a little bit of planning can save your life. What's the dumbest survival mistake you've ever heard of or seen? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.